It's March the 28th, 1942. At 1 a.m., HMS Campbelltown, a World War I era destroyer that has been loaned to the British by the US, is making its way up the Loire estuary in France. Lieutenant Commander Stephen Sam Beatty watches as German anti-aircraft guns on both shores flash and crack away at more than 60 RAF bombers making diversionary attacks nearby. In makeshift compartments below the ship's foredeck, demolition experts recheck the time fuses connected to 7 tons of explosive charges, while hundreds of seamen and commandos ready themselves for the onslaught to come. Then, through the darkness, they see the target for the first time in the distance, the massive Normandy dry dock at Saint-Nazaire. On the Atlantic coast, it's the only place capable of carrying out repairs on the 42,000-ton battleship Tirpitz, terror of the North Atlantic and sister ship to Bismarck, which met a violent end just a year before. At a nearby observation post, German naval officers struggle to make out the silhouettes of the Campbelltown and several wooden Fairmile ships following behind. The Campbelltown is flying the German flag and has been disguised to make it look like a German destroyer. Signaling the ship, the Campbelltown responds with the correct code. It's an older code, but it checks out. The Germans illuminate the flotilla with searchlights. The warning shot fired across the bow is one the Brits have been expecting. In response, they launch a flare that burns a bright emerald green before splitting into 3 distinct red clusters, the Kriegsmarine signal for recognition. At 01:30, the Germans realize they're being fooled, and all hell breaks loose as the many guns on the estuary start taking chunks out of the British. Aboard the beleaguered ships, the German flags are hastily lowered and replaced by Royal Navy ensigns. Caught in a maelstrom of fire, Campbelltown and the others are sustaining heavy damage. Their decks are strewn with debris and injured men, and the very success of the mission is now in serious doubt. Realizing that the moment calls for guts and leadership above all else, from the destroyer's armored bridge, Beatty shouts, "Full speed ahead!" and "Prepare for ramming!" Campbelltown lurches forward until with an epic crunch, a massive concussion, the old destroyer slams into the dock's outer wall and gates. A gaping 30-foot section is torn into her steel bow, but the crippled warship comes to rest, perfectly positioned with the bomb hanging over the heavily damaged wall. Knocked down by the impact, Beatty turns to his men and said, "Here we are, men. Just 4 minutes late." Now it's the commandos' turn, and they clamber down ropes and ladders onto the dock and into the dark water. The commandos successfully take out the 2 winding stations and an underground pumping station. With their missions as complete as they're ever likely to be, the commandos regroup, attend to their wounded, and patiently wait for the motor launches, originally scheduled to whisk them away to safety. But when getting to the jetty, they see just a sea of flame, where the flimsy British launchers have been decimated by the Germans. Tired, wounded, hungry, low on ammo, and surrounded by 5,000 Germans hell-bent on settling the score, they split into small groups, hiding in warehouses, gardens, and gutters to evade capture. But most are shot or taken into custody. The following morning, most of the remaining men are captured, and the Campbelltown still hasn't exploded. Inspection teams fail to find the explosives and look for souvenirs. The British realize that the bomb could go off at any time, but no one says a word, despite being perilously close to the blast zone, and some men even being taken back on board the ship. At 10:35 in the morning, Beatty is being mocked by an interrogator. "It was no good ramming the gates of the dry dock with a flimsy ship," he said. At that precise moment, there was an earth-shattering detonation. The force is so great that the Campbelltown's bow and most of the wall are irreparably damaged, and more than 400 lives are lost, most of which were unsuspecting Germans still on board the Campbelltown, as well as 2 incredibly brave captured commandos who kept their mouths shut despite knowing full well that they were about to be blown into oblivion. Of the more than 600 men who took part, nearly 1/3 were killed. Kriegsmarine High Command in Germany announced the raid a complete failure, but the dock was not repaired until 1947. For his part, Beatty received a Victoria Cross, one of the many given on the raid, a raid that has become known as the greatest raid. Most of our viewers aren't yet subscribers. If that's you, then please hit subscribe and support the channel. And please like the video. Thank you.